Guys, in this lesson we are going to be talking about factoring quadratic expressions and using those factors to actually solve quadratic expressions, okay? So by the end of this lesson, what I would hope is that you be able to factor a quadratic expression and use that factor to solve anything quadratic. That's my goal by this. So let's just start by how can I factor out the greatest common factor in any quadratic expression. Sometimes that's the first thing you want to do. You want to look to see, can you factor out the greatest common factor in a quadratic? That might make your life a little bit easier. So to do that, what you want to do is you want to first find the greatest common factor for each term. And when I say that, what I mean is you want to look at first the coefficients. So let's look at the 3 and the 12 here. You want to factor out the greatest common factor of 3 and 12. Well, the greatest common factor of 3 and 12 is actually 3, because 3 is divisible, or 12 is divisible by 3. So we're going to factor a 3 out, and this is how I like to start it off. I like to make a set of parentheses just like this. Okay. I like to put a minus sign right here, because I'm going to put, there's going to be a term here and here, and I like to put my factors on the outside. So I just factored out a 3 out of those two terms. Okay. And then next thing you want to look at is the variables. What variables can you factor out each of these terms? Well, here I got an a squared, and here I got an a in this term right here. And so I need to factor out the variables. So what is the variables for the a squared and a? What's the greatest common factor of those two? Well, you want to look at which one has the least amount of a's. Well, here's the least amount of a's here. So you can factor out at most one out of both these terms to be fair. You need to be fair. Okay, that's the key. So I'm going to factor an a out. Now what you want to do is, now that I factored out kind of the greatest common factor, I got that part completed. What you want to do is you want to figure out what is left in each term. Okay, and what you're doing is you're really dividing here. We're doing division to figure out what's left in each term. But I know it's kind of weird to think about it this way, but what's 3 divided by this 3 right here? Well, 3 divided by 3 is nothing left. You pulled it out. Okay, so that's gone. There's no 3's left in this term. Now, if you took an a squared and you pulled out an a, really what that's saying is you're dividing a squared by a. And how many a's do you have left if you pulled out one a from an a squared? Well, in this situation, you have one a. So I have an a left there. Okay. And then let's take a look at our other term right here. Here I had this 12. I pulled out a 3. When I pulled out a 3, I'm really dividing by 3. So what's 12 divided by 3? Well, 12 divided by 3 is 4. And I pulled out this a right here. And so when I pull, since I only had one a and I pulled out a, there's no a's left. So here is my factor right there. Here's my final solution, is 3a times a minus 4. Now, you can double check that you did this right. If you distribute this 3a back here, here, and here, and you get the same exact thing, you factored it out correctly. So let's take a look at this. What's 3a times a? 3a times a, well, that's 3a squared. Well, that checks off. That's right there. And what's 3a times negative 4? Well, 3a times negative 4 is negative 12a. And that's right there. So it checks off. So thus, this is the correct factor, doing the greatest common factors. Okay? Now, let's give it a shot at this one. Let's look at this one right over here and see how we can factor this one out. First, again, this is what's weird about this one. You've got to imagine this is one whole big term and this is one whole big term. And what factors are common in those terms? Well, I like to start with my coefficients. I have a 5 and a 3. Is there a greatest common factor of a 5 and 3? Not really. This one has this x right here, but there's no single x right in this one anywhere in this one, so I really can't factor an x out. But check out what's in common. This term has a 4x plus 5 and this one has a 4x plus 5. So I could actually factor that out of this. So I got a 4x plus 5. I'm going to factor out of both of those terms. So when I do that, what do I have left in this term? Well, this term just has this 3x right there. So I'll put a 3x minus, and this term has this 5 right here, minus 5. And so my factor of this is 4x plus 5 and 3x minus 5. And that's how you factor out greatest common factors. As you practice it more and more, you won't have to think about as dividing and all these other things. But just give it the practice, put in the time, and then good things will happen to you.